Hey everyone, Tony G and little Joan, she's under that blanket, with a hot take on Australia. Australia. Remember that? Remember that from Superman? Favorite favorite Lex Luthor is always Gene Hackman. Um, this guy, Avi Yemini, he is the, I guess you'd call him the crusading reporter in Australia who reports a lot of stuff for Rebel News. And let me see if I can. I can't play this because I don't know, YouTube might flag me. But the deal with Avi is he is covering right now. He's covered a lot of stuff for immigration. He was the guy who got taken or nearly taken by Jim Jeffries, who had a TV show on Comedy Central, and Avi set up a camera. He set up his phone to record his whole interview because he knew it was going to get hacked to pieces. And he's Jewish, and they tried to make him look like the bad guys from World War II. No lie. So if you get a chance, check out Avi's channel. But what's going on in Australia right now, specifically in, I guess they have provinces called, uh, you know, Victoria. I believe it's a province. And this is a march in Melbourne against the lockdown. Now, they have a much, much, much more stringent lockdown in Australia. You have to wear masks everywhere. You can only travel certain distances. I mean, it's insane. And so naturally, people are resisting and they're marching, and that's also illegal. They arrested a pregnant woman for attempting to organize a march on Facebook. They came into her home. That was one of Avi covered that in another video. But these are people who are marching in Melbourne against the lockdown, and this may very well be coming to the United States, at least in part, and to some extent, it's already here. I mean, Governor Whitmer is now demanding that restaurants and bars take your name and address when you go there in an attempt to trace everybody and their comings and goings in order to, they say, track the virus. But that's just stupid. Here's why. So imagine you go into a restaurant and they say, give us your name. You could say any name you want. It's not illegal to give them a fake name. I don't think it is. If it is, that's certainly weird. But, you could just say Tom Smith and then eat your dinner. You could say I live on 123 Fake Street. What are they going to do? Are they going to make you show ID? People would leave. People would bristle under that. And they are. That's why Whitmer's... Whitmer is, man, she'll be lucky if she's not recalled, I think. I don't think she's running this time around, but, it's a very stringent lockdown. There's been a lot of protest against the lockdown. And what we have to really worry about, God forbid if Joe Biden wins, is they'll turn up the lockdown, and then the protest will mostly be people on the other side of the political aisle coming out to protest against the lockdowns. And guess what? That ain't going to sit well with the people in charge, because the people in charge of this country, or some of them anyway, were okay with BLM Antifa protests, but they're not going to be okay with protests against the lockdown, much like it is here in Victoria. This is the leader of the current protest movement, and he interviewed him and interviewed this woman who also was excited to meet Avi and is a big supporter. This is the pregnant woman who the cops arrested in her own home because of her Facebook post. This is how draconian it's become in Australia. You can see the cops there. Let's see if I can find. Yeah, they arrest some people quite aggressively. They're throwing people on the ground. And what you have to understand, like in the United States, the cops here, they get pretty aggressive. And in some respects, although I don't condone that aggression, it's come to be expected. Like if you're if you're physically arrested, you can be expected to, at the very least, pushed against a car, handcuffed, thrown into a cruiser, and you get treated a little bit roughly. That usually doesn't happen in Australia. The cops there, I've seen plenty of videos where the cops were pretty chill. Now they're not. Now they're very aggressive. They've been very aggressive. This guy, I believe it was his brother, or maybe it was one of the other guys who was arrested. And this guy's from Syria, and he also interviewed somebody from China. So, this guy's from China. And this guy, he moved. He's of Chinese descent, but he considers himself an Australian now. And he talked about how his grandfather was oppressed back in China, and he sees similarities. So I would definitely, and he's also another immigrant who came to this country. He wants to work. He's talking about working, and the lockdown is preventing him making a living. And it just kind of cuts back and forth. Here's another. And Avi's kind of a fun interviewer. I like his videos a lot because he's always having fun. This guy here was in his car, and most of the Aussies are pretty fun. This is mother, daughter, and grandmother marching against the lockdown. And they're very, very upset with their politicians. Oh, yeah, here's this guy in the car who's in this other video, too. And almost everybody there is against the lockdown, and yet it's still happening. It's still happening. So I hope the Aussies throw these bombs out. I really do, man. I don't know when your elections are. I know parliamentary elections are a little more wonky. It's a little less straightforward than we have here, but they have to get them out, and we have to get the Democrats out of power right now, because the Democrats are pro-lockdown. And I believe if we continue to have Democrats in power, I mean, it's already split the country. You have red states are not very locked down, and then you have blue states that are more locked down than unlocked. So like in New Jersey, it's kind of like half and half, but there's 25% capacity in the restaurants. Not so across the river in Delaware. Not so in Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, Democratic run state, but they have different restrictions. So I guess if you had to rank them according to the various restrictions, probably the least amount of restrictions probably would be Pennsylvania, and then New Jersey, and then it would shoot to the moon until you got to Michigan. Michigan probably has the most, probably New York too. And these lockdowns are causing nothing but problems. Nothing but problems. And there's no real hard scientific evidence that the lockdowns really do much. In the beginning of all this, the Democrats were very much against the lockdown and very much against doing anything, because they wanted to immediately position themselves against Donald Trump. Immediately. That was their knee-jerk reaction. We got to position ourselves against Donald Trump. He's saying this is bad. It's probably not going to be bad. Let's just take the opposite tact. And then they were like, oh, he's making a big deal out of nothing. And then when they realized their mistake, they immediately flopped 180. And now they're like, well, you didn't lock down enough, Donald Trump. You didn't lock down the whole country. You didn't do PPE and blah, blah, blah. Now they've taken the complete opposite tact, because now, of course, Trump wants to open the country. I mean, it's as simple as that. It has nothing to do with scientific evidence. Nothing. Even the WHO now is saying, well, the lockdowns aren't doing much, and they're not good. Don't lock things down. If you look at Sweden, they didn't lock things down. They're fine. And, they had people die, and they've had the virus. I'm not saying they're immune to it, but they went for a herd immunity strategy, which is about all you can do with a virus. There's evidence to suggest that none of the lockdowns, the masks, nothing did anything. The only thing this did was slow the spread somewhat in certain areas. and we were able to get on top of it, which is a good thing. I don't think anybody would dispute that we were on board with the lockdown for that 2 weeks, 2 weeks to lower the curve or whatever. But after that, it's a little bit like a certain bad guy in World War II who was given power legally and didn't give it up until the bunker scene. I am reminded of our tyrant, Governor Phil Murphy, who keeps extending himself emergency powers every 30 days in New Jersey like clockwork. Oh, I still need emergency powers. Sorry, everybody. Sorry, still need this power. I don't think he does. And I think he's wasted a ton of money while at the same time trying to borrow money, while trying to get money from the federal government. It's a scam. It's a scam for these politicians. They spend more money than they have. Then they go to the federal government, give me some money, and then they use that to get reelected with programs and whatnot. We can't have that. We can't have that. And it's bad. Back in the day, sure, Democrats were about some policies. Some of them were cynical like that, but most of them, they wanted these programs because they genuinely believed in them, and people were too fiscally frugal to give them the money, so they were constantly begging for it. Come on, you got to give us a little money here. These people are, kids need breakfast in the morning at school, and they're poor and they can't afford it, and blah blah blah. They'd have all this reasoning. Now it's not even what reason is there for contact tracers where only 42% of the people answer the phone? I mean, that's just ridiculous. You're not going to be able to stop the spread of the virus, and it hasn't. It's spread more. So we can't trust the government on this. So if you're interested in checking out Avi, he's got his own channel here on BitChute. I don't think he's on YouTube anymore, but you can also find him at Rebel News, and I find him very entertaining and informative. So if anything's going on in Australia, definitely check out Avi, and check him out now for what's going on in Victoria and in Melbourne here, because I think there's a chance, especially if Biden, God forbid, wins, that we may experience all new lockdowns, and you may be getting a little preview here.